All right, here we are, and I've got my lovely assistant Ellen with me, and she's going to help me explain the tools a little bit. And let's start off with a little bit of basic safety. So if you're doing stuff with tools and it's involving a lot of impact, like hammering, or you're going to be creating a lot of dust, you want to take some precautions. So here we've got our really awesome safety glasses. This will help to keep the dust from getting in your eyes. Isn't that great? And then we also have some gloves. Gloves will help protect your hands and help you to prevent hand injuries, which is always a good thing. So won't really need those just right now, but that is something that you always want to take into consideration. So we're going to start off with some pliers. This is what we call slip joint pliers or common pliers. This is probably what you think of when you think of just basic pliers, right?
Yeah, I'd say that's true.
Yeah. So here we've got two positions with this. It's got the slip joint right there, and so it can be either on this wide mouth where the jaws of the pliers don't meet when you have the handles completely squeezed, or you can have the narrower one where they do meet. And so this is good for just picking up things or rotating objects like this. You can just grab it in the jaw there, and that helps you to get more force on the object as you're rotating it there.
Now I'm guessing with the two positions there, the wider one would be for larger items, and then the smaller one is for narrow things that you're trying
Exactly.
to talk about.
Yeah, so the pliers are basically two levers, and so you've got your fulcrum right here, and then this is the end that you're applying your force to, and then this is the end of the load. And so by basically taking the load between those two jaws there, you can put quite a bit of force, transform that force into more force on this end, since this end is longer than that end. So by doing that, it transforms the force and gives you better grip and more pressure than you'd have with just your hand.
That makes sense.
So that's your basic pliers. And then here we've got needle nose pliers. These can be used, they have a little cutting edge right here too. So same basic principle with the lever and your fulcrum and your load jaw there. But you can use this to strip wires. So these are used a lot in electrical scenarios, but you can also use them in other applications too. So anytime you maybe need to retrieve an object from a small space and your fingers don't quite fit in there, you can use the needle nose pliers to get in there. Or other things. Do you have any ideas of ways that you could apply needle nose pliers?
Well, I had a necklace that fell apart one time, and or it got like pulled on something, and I had to use needle nose pliers to kind of like bend the little wire pieces back.
Sure, because you're able to get more force on that than you would be able to do with just your fingers, and also it's a little bit finer work there too. So I just used that to strip the end of this wire here, and then I could also use it to make like a tight loop there. So it helps you to fabricate the wires, and electricians do that a lot when they're working with terminals and things like that. So even if you're not an electrician, you might find an application for needle nose pliers as well. And then here we have lineman's pliers. And as the name indicates, this is also something used a lot by electricians. So they also have a cutting edge there, and they're good for maneuvering heavy duty wire. And with this, they come in different sizes, but a general principle with the tools is the bigger the tool, the more force you get out of it, especially with a lever tool like this. So the longer the handles, the more force you can apply. So if you're working with a really heavy gauge wire, you'd want to get the bigger ones. I know this from personal experience, because one time I tried doing a project with heavy gauge wire and little lineman's pliers, and it was terrible. And then finally I got the big ones, and I was like, why didn't I do this forever ago? But anyway, you can also use these just like the needle nose pliers to strip the wire by rotating it around like that, and then by pulling it off, so like that. And then you can also use it to twist the ends of wires together like that in order to make a nice tight coil. And that's something you do a lot with electrical work. Okay, and next we have tongue and groove pliers, and this might be a little hard to see from this distance, but you can see there are basically all these little channels right here, and then there's a pin that goes in right there that engages with the groove, and so these have adjustable jaws as well. So you can have a wide jaw or you can have a narrow jaw there, and you can put quite a bit of pressure on with those. These are probably the most versatile of all the pliers. They don't have a cutting edge, but they are really good for just gripping a lot of things of different sizes. So honestly, one of the biggest or most common ways that I use this will be to like get tight bottles open. So this one keeps sticking on me. Useful. But yeah, if you adjust it to the right edge there, you can get a good grip on it, and then you can get your bottle open and put some vanilla in your cookies. So yeah, these have applications outside of just hardware and mechanics. So you can use it in the kitchen too. Can you think of any?
That's actually like the most practical thing in the world. Like, I'm always just ask someone else to open it for me instead of thinking to get a tool.
So these are also really great for tightening up like water hoses and things like that too. I've used these recently to put the water hoses back on the back of my washing machine, but you could also use it for outdoor hoses and things like that too. So then we have locking pliers, and these are fun. They also come in different sizes. And this has an adjustable screw at the bottom, and that actually changes the width of the jaw here. So with that, you can see it can be wider like that, or it can come together. And these basically can act as a temporary hand because they lock into place. And so if you get it set to the right width there, let's say I want to grab onto this wire or something like that, I'll set the jaws just a little bit narrower than whatever it is I want to grip, and then just lock it like that, and that thing is not going anywhere. Try pulling on it.
There we go.
Okay.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with this kind.
Yeah, so these are great. You can use them. Sometimes people will use them as temporary handles, like if a handle is broken off of something and it's just got like a little stem of something to grab there, and they'll snap those on there so that you can then turn whatever it is that you need to turn. And then to release it, you just squeeze this part right here. So I've got these pretty tight, so I have to squeeze pretty hard in order to get it open there, but they do come off there. And they come in different varieties, so you'll have your bigger ones, and then these are like basically like the needle nose pliers, but with a locking mechanism there too. Cool. So that is your introduction to the pliers. Any questions, thoughts, anything you never saw before?
Well, the locking pliers was something that I was not familiar with. I haven't ever used those before. So that's a really unique tool that I haven't had any experience with.
Yeah. So another thing these can be really good for is just pulling nails out. So if you grab that nail near the base of the board where it is, then you can use that the rounded nose there to kind of rock it like that and apply leverage to that nail to pull it out of a board too. So they're really handy for that.
Yeah.
All right, so that wraps up our segment on pliers.